Hey, all right. Surprise stream tonight. I'm feeling a little bit better after being a little knocked down for a couple weeks here with some sickness, but excited to get back to drawing. And I just wanted to do this surprise live stream and kind of talk about what I'm doing tonight. Um, yeah, so I'll just jump right into it. And if people join the stream in the end, kind of reset this. But last night, I couldn't sleep the past few nights because, having a cough and all that stuff. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, uh, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd say I had went to Twitter, was just goofing around, and I saw this tweet, and you might not know who this is, but this tweet here. So it's Gary Vaynerchuk. If you're not familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk, well, you are now. So, so Gary Vaynerchuk, I've been following him for a long time, but here he had a post looking into hire a Sunday comic strip writer and comic strip designer for VeeFriends. So please email me at Gary VeeFriends. You need 5+ years of experience, please. And he's excited, right? So immediately, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm up, and hey everybody, hey Steph, and Dan and Eric. Hey guys, thanks for joining the surprise stream. We're going to talk about comic strips tonight. We're going to talk about the art of comic strips, Sunday comics. I'm going to try to draw some comics here live until I pass out. It's going to be great. I'm going to tell you about all the great times I've had drawing comics and why I'm doing this. So, anyways, here's the tweet from Gary last night. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, oh man, I could do that. I could totally bang that out because I fan of Gary's work. Went to VCon this year. It was a kind of a life-changing experience. I kind of talked about it a lot in some of my newsletters and socials and stuff like that. Just a really kind of deep experience. But most people know Gary as like the hustle and grind guy. I got a couple of his books on my shelf back here. Watched him for years until he said something like, "Stop watching me, go do your shit." So I was like, all right, I'm going to do that. So that's exactly what I did. I just kind of stopped watching him for a while. And he would pop up in the feeds occasionally, but I was like, all right, I've heard everything the guy had to say. I'm going to just do my thing. So yeah, I got to meet Gary this past May, and gave him some drawing books and stuff like that. Just really appreciative of the energy that he puts out. So you might know him from like the business side, or that he wants to buy the Jets. Tough season for the Jets, but he also recently put out this VeeFriends, and it's really wonderful cartooning, and like it's just his uh, motivational message. Kind of not. I don't want to say all. I guess it's all ages. I mean, kind of. There's some characters that have some F bombs in their name and stuff like that. But it's very, like, look at it, it's very colorful and very nice. And it's very, he's building his own IP here around this, but it's more than just that. He's kind of pushing this message of positivity and empathy, and like a lot of the things we talk about in the Draw or Die Club too. So, I don't want to say that I could draw this strip with my eyes closed, but I was like, oh, this would be fun project to work on. So yeah, there was a thing like, email. I couldn't sleep, so we're going to take a look through and see kind of some of the characters I'm going to try and draw tonight. I've never really drawn these characters before, so I'm just going to dive in and do some like character design and talk about what a comic strip might look like. Nobody's asked me to do this, but I have another video here on my website, or on my YouTube channel, sorry, that talks about the future of comics, right? And how do you break into comics these days, right? Because I've done it all pretty much. I've had a newspaper strip. I've done, you know, full graphic novels, comic books. And when young people come to me and say, how would I break into comic strips or whatever like that? I'm like, do you even want to? Because it's not very lucrative, the newspaper comic strip thing. But deep down inside, I've always been kind of obsessed a little bit with the comic strip format. So I'm going to talk a lot about that as I'm drawing here in a little bit. You can see here, there's these nice characters. He just did some collabs with like Skeletor and Skilled Skeleton. So you might not have heard of VeeFriends yet, but I'm sure you will. You're going to see this somewhere. But I love this box, how it kind of separates, and it's like Skeletor and Skilled Skeleton. And they got some like, kind of Halloween type characters too. And it was interesting that he said Sunday comics in there. that he was hiring a Sunday comic writer and a Sunday comic strip. Because most people, when you think of Sunday comic strip, you think of Calvin and Hobbes, right? I mean, I do. That's the classic Sunday comic strip. As a matter of fact, most people these days don't even read comic strips, right? So the youngsters, there's just nobody reading this stuff anymore, which is sad to me. Um, but that's what a Sunday comic strip looks like. And the anatomy of that strip, a Sunday strip, would be 3 tiers. So it's basically 3 daily strips stacked on top of each other, about a half a newspaper page. And sometimes they'll break out and just do like a bigger panel. So Calvin and Hobbes was always known for doing that. So usually when I see somebody saying like, I want a Sunday comic strip, uh, uh, they think Calvin and Hobbes because it was one of the best Sunday comic strips, ever, probably to this day. For me, I always had kind of tunnel vision. I don't have anything on here, but I'm going to switch my screen to my iPad now. So switch over here, kind of look through. My story goes that whenever I was a kid, I wanted to draw uh, newspaper strips like Garfield or something like that. And, I did get to do that for a little bit of time. Not Garfield, but my own comic strip. And I really became obsessed for a long time with this 4-panel adventure comic strip, which nobody wants anymore. Like, nobody wants this format, for an adventure strip, but so I just put it out online for, like, in the void, pretty much, like, before I figured out who I was speaking to as my audience and stuff like that. I just always loved the adventure comic strip format. Uh, People were like, "You don't want" everybody wants full 80-page graphic novels now. They don't want stuff like this. But I didn't care. I was like, "I don't care. I don't need to, this is for me. I'm drawing this for me. I'm gonna put out what I wanna read." That's always been kind of my compass. But getting back to this whole 360 of what I'm gonna do here tonight, I'm gonna be drawing. I wanted to show this too much of this stuff, but, I have a lot in here. Look at this. Like, we're gonna talk about that because we can see that VeeFriends, it has a lot of great art already and a lot of animation, a lot of IP artwork behind it, beautiful art. But why wouldn't they just have those artists draw the daily comic strip, right? I don't know the answer to that, except I'll say that approaching a comic strip, a daily comic strip or a weekly comic strip, is just a whole different animal. Um, it's a different beast. The way that you have to think about writing it and approaching it and being there day in and day out, it's like a sickness. You got to have that sickness to want to do it because most artists will spend, 10, 15 hours on that. You don't have time for that. You got to churn this stuff out and kind of be here's some funny ones I just did with your mama stuff a while back. Oh boy, I don't want to get political there. Oh, whoops. But this is when everybody was trapped in their house. This is what I did during the pandemic, you know. So yeah, and I've done this before. I've done comic strips before, and again, this isn't me saying I want to get this job. I mean, I would like to get this job. It's not me saying that I'm going to get this job, but it's me kind of saying like, this is how I would approach it. Like, I'm going to go in here and do this live, just like my other video talks about. I'm going to kind of just go through the process of what I would do if I were starting this, as if I were, if I'd been hired to do this, I'd probably have to do some character design work and design the format, maybe some writing, brainstorming. So that's kind of what I'm going to do tonight while I talk about this stuff. And hey, Gary. Yeah, nobody talks about daily comic strips or the comic strip format really much anymore, anywhere that I could see. So it is something that I'm pretty passionate about. And, I just got back from Vid Summit and I'm just going to open up this canvas here. What I might do tonight is I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate a couple of these frames out. I might just like sketch out some actual strips. So for those that don't know, a daily comic strip was usually 6 strips Monday through Saturday, and then a Sunday would be like double size strips, right? So when you're laying out a week's worth of strips, now again, uh, Gary's asking for a weekly Sunday comic strip, and that's it. I would say, why not just go all in and do a daily, daily comic strip? Because in my feeling is that that's an engine that can really, I think that if Marvel or DC or like other big uh, companies started putting out more daily content and bite-sized content, it would really build up a pretty big audience pretty quickly and um, more time to kind of have a experiment with your stories and characters and see what resonates with the audience. And like the internet's just a great way to do that, right? So, hey, Eric, yeah, thanks for watching. You can come back watch the stream. I don't know how long this is going to last. I'm already 11 minutes in here and I haven't drawn a thing yet. So we're gonna get in here and just kind of merge all these layers. I'm not really worried about whatever, but try to draw something while I'm talking here. Go in here, grab these pencils. We're just going to use a blue line. Right. Another layer. That's perfect. So the first character, like we got these, I'll show some of these characters because he's got kind of like that's another complicated thing about VeeFriends. If you were approaching this, hey, Barry. Barry knows a thing or two about daily strips. He's been drawing daily stuff for quite a while and half pages, whole pages. We're going to talk a little bit more about the anatomy of throwing together a strip. I don't know what I'm going to do. Actually, it's going to be, I'm trying to get this off the stream. This is going to be kind of like a live brainstorm, session. I know a little bit about the VeeFriends here, but there's over 234, maybe even more now, characters that are in that. They're not all very fleshed out yet, but there's some main characters, right? And they're very cartoony and very, uh, not easy to draw, but they should be, fun to draw, let's say. But the thing with drawing a daily or a weekly strip is you got to learn to draw these characters over and over and over and over again. And to make it interesting, you don't want them just standing there like clip art. You want to have them doing some stuff, right? That was the great thing about Calvin and Hobbes is you had energy, happening, some action, um, even just even just in like body language, and what's going on in the strip. So how do you take these characters that maybe only saw a couple dimensions and they've been doing some animations and stuff, but not with all of them? So like picking a few key characters and kind of giving them a scenario would be kind of interesting to do. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. So let me just my voice is a little raspy, getting over the illness, but nothing better but some drawing. So yeah, I'll start with something easy. It's probably the panda character for me, and then we'll go down through and I'll do gratitude gorilla. So yeah, these might sound silly to you, but they're kind of all kind of just teaching not moral stuff, but like there's always a good thing behind the stories or the characters, right? So there's patient panda who I'm drawing right now. So let's try this out. Right. Just gonna kind of see where. Again, I haven't talked to anybody from VeeFriends about this, and the guys that are just joining now. Again, there was a post last night from Gary Vaynerchuk about hiring a cartoonist or a comic strip writer for VeeFriends comic strip, a weekly comic strip. And I thought, well, I couldn't sleep, and I'm like laying there going like I should just wake up and start drawing. But I also had a full day of work, ahead of me too. So I could have been. I really wanted to do like some of the character designs first, kind of figure that out before I get into some ideas for stories or scenarios, right? Because it's kind of the art, and we're gonna do some. I'm gonna actually lay out a couple ideas as my brain is flowing, and I'm just gonna keep talking like an old school deep work stream. And you know, hey Larry, gee, will draws. I'll look up occasionally and look at the chat, but I'll never get anything done if I'm just here yabbering. So, but I'm sure that if I actually had the job officially in the future, there's probably character turnarounds. It looks like they've worked on these characters for quite a while, and I know a little bit behind the scenes. Like they're working on a lot of stuff, and yeah, the VCon was very cool to see these like characters kind of come to life because they were just like sketches before, but suddenly at VCon they were like animations and merch and all kinds of cool stuff happening there. So Alicia and I, Allie, my wife, we were talking about like, well, you know, instead of just sitting around going like, okay, let's email you and go, uh, yeah, I'd like to draw for you. Here's my portfolio or whatever. We're living in kind of like um, the future here. So why not live stream? You know, this is the first time I've ever drawn the panda character, patient panda, and it's part of what you know Gary teaches people through his work. And I don't really have his feet. Let's see. I'll look up his feet. That's pretty much just like he's kind of elongated now. Again, first time I've drawn this character, so don't don't judge me here. Get it. He's like kind of a dark character, so he's not like a black. He's kind of like a dark blue shade of blue. So when we color him in, we'll have to keep that in mind. And there's animated versions of these characters, but what would these characters look like in a comic strip? Something that was going to be drawn over and over again, something that could be a little bit exaggerated. So that's fine. I'm going to get that. And if I weren't doing this tonight, I'd probably be drawing these characters like over and over and over again. Like I would draw another panda here and here. You know, I would just keep drawing that same character, doing different headshots. Like what's it look like when he's from this way and he's got his mouth open? Like do that. But yeah, back in the day, let's talk about that. Before the internet, right before the internet, if you wanted to get your comic strip published, you'd have to submit to syndicates. You'd have to get your 40 strips or whatever, or 6 weeks worth of strips together, and then you'd send them into the syndicate, and you'd usually get a rejection letter that said, hey, work on this, work on that. And at some point, I talked to someone, and they were like another creator, and they were self-syndicating their work. And I got the information on how to do that, got a list of newspaper editors and called them up, mailed them a package, and we had our comic strip in 1998 was in like 50 newspapers. It was called Gravity. It was about a space station, uh, with kids living on it. It's kind of fun, right? I won't ink those right now, but just enough. Like these are nice, simple shapes too. These characters, so you could have a lot of fun. You could do a lot of cool, action if you wanted. They got little short, stubbier legs than that, so they're not very elongated, but you could have some fun with, what they might be doing, skateboarding or jumping. There's a rabbit. It's like Radical Rabbit or something like that. See that. So yeah, uh, I guess this is also a an example of what I would do if I saw an opportunity out there. And I was a young cartoonist. I'm not a young cartoonist anymore, but you've got all these tools. You got live streaming. You got all this stuff. Why wouldn't you draw your comic live? You know, maybe you don't always have stuff to talk about. You're not like, yammering like me, but you might have people that just want to watch you draw too, and kind of just hear about the process and what you're thinking as you're drawing. And, you know, this one's pretty, I'm getting this, I'm kind of getting this one down as far as like the overall makeup of this character. And it could be loose right now. It doesn't have to be fancy. We can get into the inks later. Right. So Allie had a concept where she thought, well, and again, nobody's asked us to do this. Like we're just like, all right, let's just make it up and stream a few nights and see what's what. And I'll be like, here, this is scan through, watch me draw some comic strips live. And then that becomes sort of like a little portfolio piece for you too, if you did it right. Not like me. Like you wouldn't want to do it like me talking, like telling you about this, but how different is it than how things used to be, with having to like mail stuff in and get rejected. And there's tons of artists probably trying or gonna try for this thing, but how many of them took the initiative to pop on a live stream and actually just jam it out? I might fall on my face here. Let's take a look here. Hi, Linda. Thanks for joining. Sorry about my sore throat here, but listen to me anyways, I guess. So now we got, what's it look like? That's the panda. Did a pretty good job of him. And again, every one of these characters kind of has like a message or some kind of departing sort of thing. Empathy elephant. So patient panda, he'd be pretty easy to draw over and over again. Not that I'm looking for easy, but I'll try willful wizard next. So if I were to like just scan through and look at these characters, I'd probably, and like if no one gave me guidance, which no one's given me any guidance, I'm just doing this for fun right now. I would probably be looking through and trying to find the characters that I could draw that were interesting and be able to draw them hundreds and hundreds and thousands of times over and over and over again. So these characters are kind of structured in that way. So let's go ahead and draw some willful wizard here. And again, there's not a whole lot of pictures of him that I could find. So I'm just going to go with his general shape, as he has a beard. Oh, now this reminds me that I like there's a gnome character too. Knowing gnome. Don't ask me how I know all this stuff. Oh yeah, Linda says she's developing a webcomic about a reformed succubus at a bikini barista in a fantasy genre. Well, that's much different from VeeFriends, but I love that about comics, is that, especially web comics, that you could literally do anything, any style, any story. There's something for everybody online. I'll change this brush size here a little bit. A little zoomed in. Sure, if I might have put that. I want to be a perfectionist right now. It's the first time I've ever drawn willful wizard, so just I'm gonna be kind to myself, right? So I'm gonna listen to the characters and be like forgiving of myself if I get them wrong. I'm sure there's some like VeeFriends fan people that are like, "Oh my God, you got the cheeks wrong or whatever." Yeah, all right. But yeah, comic strips were always my jam. which sucked because, you grow up and you wanna do something with yourself. Like, I wanna be a newspaper comic strip artist, then you get pretty decent at it, and then the world changes and no one wants that anymore, and then newspapers are down and, everybody's, and there was a time where, and I was actually, along with, a few others, we were like the first, cartoonists to put our comics up online for free in like 1998, 1999, and started calling them web comics. So we kind of coined that phrase, and a group of people, formed Keen Space and Keen Spot, and kind of like an OG of webcomics, webcomic stuff. He always has a little staff too, right? So let's see. This, let's see. It's looking a little like a hobo, but I think he has like he's supposed to have like a cloak, but again, a real simple thing going on with the willful wizard. So yeah, you grow up, you want to do comic strips, you get pretty good at this thing that you think is going to be a career or something, and it's like womp womp, nope, you know. And a lot of comic artists at that time, or comic strip, there's a big difference actually. So there were comic strip artists, daily comic strip artists, and then there were the comic book artists, right? And when the internet came around and newspapers started kind of dropping, the daily comic strip guys hated the young punks like me that were putting out comics for free. I was killing you're killing the art form and wow, wow, wow. And I was in some like cartoonist groups and getting banned from there back in the, early 2000s. And I was younger and, fiery and stuff too. So I thought, you guys can't see the future. Like, this is the future. The internet was the future, man. Like, you're going to be able to reach so many more people. And back then, there weren't as many people online, but I still had more people reading my webcomics than were reading Spider-Man every month. So I just could see, like, you're building this true fans, you're building this audience. Like, I just feel it. But we were always kind of like way ahead of our time in webcomics, you know? Um, Still probably, I mean, this is before YouTube. This is before, basically there were bloggers online, musicians a little bit, and nobody was doing video because it was too big of file sizes. There's a star right here, I think he has on his chest. He's got moons and stars on his belly. It's not bad. All right. Willful Wizard. The first time I've drawn him, Give me some slack there. And yeah, but artists were really upset that anybody was putting stuff out for online for free, which was crazy. And I started just sharing what I knew because I wanted all cartoonists to rise up. Like, I was like, this is great. I'll show you how I'm using Google Ads. And, I put out this Cash for Cartoonists blog, and I had a lot of cartoonists ask me, like, hey, how do you use this thing to make money? And how do you, so I was teaching cartoonists how to make money, with their, this is looking pretty. Let's put a skateboard underneath him right there. He's not supposed to be on a skateboard, I don't think, but you know, he stole Radical Rabbit's skateboard. Great. But that was, the early 2000s, and something, the webcomic scene changed over the years too. It just kind of, it evolved and kind of died out, and, there were still some big players, but not like, it just kind of faded away. Everybody kind of moved. I moved on a little bit to other drawing, other stuff. So, all right. So yeah, I've never drawn these characters before. I think I'm pretty comfortable, kind of warmed up a little bit here. Might try to actually just sketch in some like story ideas, right? Why not? So one of the ideas that we had just downstairs where we were taking the dog for a walk, we're like, wouldn't it be funny if the characters themselves were excited that they were going to have their own comic strip and that they would be able to like reach, this audience or something, right? And I don't know which characters might be saying what because they all have different names like empathy and common sense cow and gratitude gorilla and stuff like that. But usually the setup for a comic strip might be two characters talking, 2 to 3. So let's just go in and kind of figure out the right layer here. All right, some live situation. And these are little characters too. So like the 4-panel comic strip might not work so well unless you're doing a full body shot, which would be fine. So let's just put the panda in here. The panda's going to go here. All right. And he might be, saying too, let's just do the giraffe. I haven't drawn the giraffe either. Genuine giraffe. He seems to be on a lot of the, marketing and stuff for one of the original characters, I guess you could say. But maybe this like very meta idea that they realize that they're going to have a comic strip and that they're excited or maybe scared or what is a comic strip? Like who reads that, anymore? Kind of the idea. Again, never drew the giraffe before, so I'm just kind of feeling this out. He's getting like a little bit of poofs. And that's the, you start out with a sketch and you can get back in here and ink it. But he might be saying something like, hey, and these might not be the right characters either. So like if I'm hanging out with, VeeFriends experts, they'd probably be like, oh no, it's this character that should be saying that. That'll come after, some time drawing them. I'm not going to really worry about that right now. It's just about showing kind of the anatomy of a daily comic strip versus a weekly strip. Because what I like about doing it all together would be that you could have a narrative building throughout the week, like 6 days or 5 days, and then Sunday's like the payoff for whatever's going on. I like that. If that makes sense. Lion said, what hardware do you need to stream your iPad? So I am streaming my iPad by connecting it with a cable to my MacBook. And then I use QuickTime to do a movie recording, but I'm not recording the movie. I'm just broadcasting to the QuickTime app. And then I'm sharing the QuickTime screen via this live streaming app. This is Talk Studio from Streamlabs, what I'm using tonight for this. Probably a little bit easier to show in a future video or something like that. I've got a couple ideas for that stuff for the channel, but yeah, I guess I could talk a little bit about VCon too whenever I'm sketching this out here. But I've been to a lot of conventions. I've been to a lot of comic conventions and things like that. And VCon was very different. And a lot of people were like, oh, it's an NFT, it's just an NFT show or something like that. Boo NFTs, all this stuff, like whatever. A lot of the artists were like upset about NFTs. And, but really it's about, did you build an audience or not, right? So Gary has an audience, and this VCon is more of like a celebration of the community, I'd say. And so it's a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business people. The speakers there were, amazing. I got to meet and listen to like Deepak Chopra and um, um, Jesse Itzler. So a lot of motivational. Well, this is a really bad body, guys, but I'm not worried about it. I don't even know why I'm fleshing that out right now. So there'll be something here like, right. But the vibe was the important thing about VCon to me. Like I just kind of went with no. I mean, I went with my wife, and she works for someone that was going, and I was like, I got a ticket to go. I was gifted a ticket from Benny Fisher, and just like I'm just going to check this out. I was between just starting a new job, so I was kind of like getting out of my old job and routine, and just kind of hanging out, figuring my stuff out. So this will be the same character. I want and redrawn over and over again. I'm trying to debate here if I should put a font in or just do hand lettering. Well, let's see. These are not supposed to be fully. I'm supposed to be just doing on like layouts, but I'm kind of torn if I should just go all in and just draw the damn strip. But yeah, the vibe of the VCon community was just really upbeat and positive, and it's everything that these characters were kind of saying. Everyone just kind of cared about each other, and I had a couple experiences there I won't get into, but like just some guided meditation stuff. I never thought I'd do that, and that was really eye opening. I felt good. I was like, wow, I feel really good. This is a good vibe crowd here, and yeah, speakers were really good. Bobby Hundreds was there, street artist. I don't know if a lot of artists know him. If you don't, well, you probably should. Right. So yeah, this would be the standard. We would put across the different characters and what they were saying. So if I just want to grab that, actually, just go ahead and grab this, copy that, go into another file, duplicate that, and just paste it in here. You can just blow it up because it's just a real rough sketch. Just to get the sizing right, of what they might be looking like in a strip. I'd like to see the giraffe standing up more. I did not do any kind of reference tonight for this stream, but I'll just fade that out. And I should have, I don't have lettering in this one. I'll just switch to my other template. We'll do that. This one's got lettering in it, so it's easy for me to like write out the joke. Gary said, "Is your library of characters or searching Google?" So this thing here is I just kind of like copied and pasted into a Miro board just so I can like have some real quick visual reference of the characters. What they were just doing at New York Comic Con was they had some coloring sheets too for kids. That's kind of cool. And the actual tweet from Gary last night saying that he was, or yesterday when he was saying he was hiring someone to do this strip. And then I just kind of wanted to give myself some reference of, or the reader or the viewer some reference to onto like what the difference between a Sunday comic strip might be versus a daily comic strip, right? Not sure if that answers your question, Gary, but just paste this in here. Oh, come on. Nope. Uh-oh. There we go. Right. So at this stage, if I was just doing this myself and I didn't have any editors or anything like that, which I don't, I would just get in here and write a joke. And that's what I'm going to do. Sorry, guys. Hey, oops, nope. Why is that not like that? Get that out of here. And that's giraffe. I don't know what they'd call each other if they were like, hey, genuine giraffe. Would they say their whole name? Because that's, you know. Hey, did you hear the news? And let's just make Patient Panda, the artist of the strip for this example, right? I'm starting a comic strip about us. Right? Duplicate that. And he'll be like, the joke, I guess, is kind of like, what's a comic strip? You know, like, what comic strip? What's that? Go back. There's a lot of different things. I don't want to widow. We call it widowing. We don't want to widow a line word there. So not really worried about the bubbles for now. Speech balloons. We're just going to get the joke in. Duplicate that. So once you've been doing it for a while, too, like I think that's the thing about me is like once you've done a daily comic strip in the past, I don't think it ever leaves you. So you're just looking at the day-to-day thing that's going on around you, and you're like, you could just see the beats of the conversation around you. And usually if you don't know the punchline, it usually comes by the end. So I don't necessarily know what the punchline is here, but I'm going to figure it out live. I think that'd be fun. Might fail, but you know, I don't know. Let's see. So hey, did you hear the news? I'm starting a comic strip about us. And then I'd probably like actually bold us. Comic strip, what's that? And then he's maybe trying to describe how would he describe it? It's little panels of drawings and story all about us. And then the draft's probably going to be like, does it move? And I think that'll be like the tone that we'll be on. Like he'll be like, does it move? No, it's flat. And then he'll just keep saying like, so it, you know, so is it on the big screen? You know, like that kind of thing. Like a comic is a comic, right? So it's little panels of drawings and story about us. Maybe something funny. Barry says, strips are hard, man. I don't know. I think they're kind of fun. But that's what I mean too. It takes a special Like, if you just hire a good artist, like, "Oh, this artist is awesome. Let's give him a daily strip to draw," or even a writer. Writers just run out of ideas after a while. Um, it's kind of a sickness. I call it the sickness because, like, once you start to hear the world in that way, uh, almost anything can become a comic strip, any kind of scenario, you know? I got a couple other ideas too that I might just flesh out like this, tonight or maybe in tomorrow's stream. So it's a little panels of drawings and story all about us. It's little panels of story about us. Does it move? Does it move like a cartoon? No. And patient panda is being very patient with genuine giraffe right now. So that kind of worked out. No. It'd just be like, no. I don't know. Is this interesting? Like actually doing the writing live. I thought seeing this process, I had no idea what I was going to be writing tonight. So, but once you have the words down, then you just get in there and you just have fun with the art, the expressions, and things like that. No, it's just, no, it's just funny little panels posted every day. And like giraffes genuinely asking these questions. So then he might say, um, I think the joke is like, do people read that? People even read that? Or maybe it's something like, maybe the joke is something like, no, it's just something. No, it's just funny little panels posted every day. People even read that? Or he might say, like, well, it's a very dry joke. But if Panda's still trying to be patient and saying, like, well, yeah, well, well, sure. I mean, you, I mean, you're reading all the time on your phone, on your. Then he's going to be like checking his messages. Hold up, I got to check the score of the game. Something like that. That could change once I get down there. But that's the B, right? And then point made. So from there, I might just go back down into, where did I paste this? There it is. Uh oh. Okay, we want this down into here. Let's fade this out a little bit. Nope. So I'm not even worried about this panel over here. Just going to go into some inks real quick. So we're about 50 minutes in. I've done a lot of talking, kind of written out a pretty decent strip. I think the ending could be worked on as we go a little bit here. I'd say normally, let's see. I'll do a couple. I'll take a look at some of my other comics here real quick. Just did a batch for another guy. These strips here, these are like two people talking. Kind of like it's a strip about trying to get a guy to come into work, but he's got unlimited PTO and he's on a jet ski. So I did like a whole series of jokes about, the Apple headset here and wearing it to work. Those strips fully colored and all that stuff take me about well, let's take a look. I think you can actually look and see how long this took me. Canvas information. This one took me 3 hours and 20 minutes for this strip. So that's why I tell artists like that are just trying to start out, they don't realize like they're not going to be able to do that right off the bat. You're not going to be able to do this in 3 hours and 20 minutes when you've never done this before. And sometimes they take a little longer. Sometimes it could take 4 or 5 hours, but still that's fast. If you give a comic strip to another type of artist, they might say they just get stuck because it's not easy. It's just not like Barry said. Strips are hard, man. They're not. It's not an easy thing to do over and over and over again. So one thing I might do still would be if I still had the blue on. Some people like to use balloons, like vector balloons, but I still like to hand draw my balloons. Just because. I don't know why. It's like something to feel human, a little bit. And there's a little art to it too. Those might change by the time like I said, I'm not going to I don't think this is the final text, but the beats are there. Like obviously got the panda saying, hey, guess what? And he's going to have a pencil in his hand, maybe some art supplies. Put that in there. And then he's like, what does it move like a cartoon? And he's like, no, it's just funny little panels posted every day. Will people even read that? And then like this punchline needs some work. But it'll be like he's obviously reading something stupid like on the internet. And it's like, oh, that's you just made my point. Right. So that's a typical comic strip. Another idea I had was that there's different versions of these VeeFriends. So when they were first drawn, I think I got a couple somewhere. Oh yeah. So when Gary first drew these characters, they're pretty basic looking. Right? That was his first versions that he drew before he had another artist come in and like redraw them, right? So if this panda showed up looking like that, like exactly like that, and then the other characters didn't recognize him, and like, you're not Patient Panda, and you're like, I am. I'm version 1, right? Like there's a version 2 and a version 1, and like if the idea is like you're always developing, right? That's the message. Like you're always getting better. You're always like that was version 1 of Patient Panda, and now we're This is version 2. Maybe this is version 3. I don't know. Maybe that's how we get over different things. And again, I should probably check my reference for. I don't know. It's the first time I've ever drawn the panda character, so I might not get the nose exactly right, but you get the idea. My brush is way too big. There we go. Also don't know if this would be in color. Probably color, so we'll just keep some of the lines like pretty thin. Kind of convey an excitement of right. I'll get real quiet when I'm inking too, because I'm just like getting lost in my. This is kind of the part that I talk about where you're getting into a zone. And you just kind of zone out, put some music on, and you can just ink all night. And I almost did that last night. I couldn't sleep, and I was thinking about this, and I'm like, I don't know. It would be fun to do. It would be a fun project to work on, and it's something I believe in because I've witnessed it too in person at VCon and like the community, and I I like comic strips. I think it'd be nice to have somebody kind of championing um, the format outside of you know newspapers and like online, like just regular online syndicates that still kind of control a lot of the online strips. It might be fun to have like a whole other way of putting out comics, and it's just fun to think about because there's different ways to approach the same thing, but it's comics are always comics. And it's nice to see somebody like going like, "Hey, I think we need that." For whatever reason, I don't even know. I haven't talked to anybody there, and I don't know what their reasoning might be, but except that it's nostalgic and it's you know also a great way to put out your more IP, more content, more characters, more story. Okay, this is where I forgot to draw his hands. I'm gonna go back to this layer. To this. Give him a big pencil. And maybe it makes sense that Patient Panda would be a comic artist because it takes a lot of patience to do this too. Any advice for choosing an artist moniker, business name for illustration or animation? Okay. Advice for picking a name. That's a tough one. I've had multiple names in my past. My first one that I came up with was like Magic Box because I was in this little tiny studio. I'm like, it's like a little box. It's like a magic box. And then I don't know. I think if you know your pillars, like your own brand pillars, your own personal pillars, you might think of something that matches something that feels good to you. Um, take a sip of. Yeah, cough drop. Now my throat's gonna go. Oh, it's great, super great. Um, my wife and I had a still kind of have a name for a comic publisher that we were for a little bit called Flammable Solid, like the sign on the back of trucks that explode. Because when we met each other, I was like, she's fiery. She's a fiery lady. I like that. And and I'm solid, you know. So I'm the solid and she's the fiery. And it plays off pretty well. We saw this sign on the side of the road and she got it. It's hanging up back there in my studio. You can't see it, but it's up on the wall. When we were drawing she was writing and I was drawing. That's the studio name we came up with, was Flammable Solid. Right. So I don't know what's going on with you. What's going on with you, JP, JPS, JR, JP's Junior? Are you? There's probably something in your life where you're like, that's cool. One time I looked down at my fist and I was like, I have a freckled fist, and I thought freckled fist comics would be fun. Weird, but just had a good alliteration. You know, I like that. Let's see my notes here real quick. Yeah, but it definitely takes a lot of. This is a bad body too. Like, normally normal human beings would not just drop down and say like, I think I'm just gonna go draw this comic strip that I've never drawn before. But I just wanted to talk about it tonight, and I was excited last night about it, and I still think it's a good idea. And you know, chances are there's probably someone else out there that might get picked to do this, but this is how I would do it. This is how I would. Uh, I really think there's something to the. I'm gonna see how this giraffe's nose is actually, guys. Hold on 1 second. He's got like 2 dots, right? Um, if you were out there right now and making a comic or trying to like make anything, maybe not even for someone else, but if you were trying to get someone else's attention, why wouldn't you use the tools that you have? And I have another story to talk about. That would be, um, hey, Nork Soma, thanks for joining. I know it's a surprise. Working on a weird comic strip here, surprise comic strip. I won't re-describe it, but if I were trying to get someone's attention these days to get a job in comics or something like that, this is what I would do. I would jump on and do live streams and get better at your art. Keep in mind, I've never drawn these characters before, so I think I'm doing a pretty decent job. I want to be kind of forgiving of my, you know, what it is. But now back in the 80s, there's a fun story that I like to tell from Todd McFarlane. Spider-Man. You probably know him from Todd McFarlane Toys. And Todd said this story a couple times, but how he broke into comic books back in those days. He got an address for the editors at Marvel, and he would send them a package every week, like a machine, and say, nothing here. Here's the latest. He would look at what comics came out that week, and he'd redraw. He'd redraw like 5 pages, and then send them new 5 pages. How he would do it, and they were just like, "This guy again! Oh my god!" And it almost became like an inside joke inside um, the offices at Marvel. Like, oh, it's this guy again. Hey, Jim. Yeah, it's late. So I just thought I'd blast it out to the email address too. So Not sure if it's, it's worth watching, but I just kind of wanted to work on this a little bit and see something. I'll do a reset of the. Oh, here's a better picture of the giraffe. Oh, I found a better picture of the giraffe, but shoot. Now I feel like I got to redraw this giraffe, but I'm not gonna. This is the first time I've drawn the giraffe, and anyways, Jim, this is for VeeFriends, just like messing around here, trying to draw some of their characters, and I saw a message last night that Gary Vaynerchuk was hiring a comic strip artist, and I was like, I could use this as a moment to show like some of the cartoonists that young sorry, some of the young cartoonists that message me and say like, how would you break into comics? Or how do you get paying work? I'm saying like jump in here and do this kind of stuff. Do a live stream, you know? Um, anyways, Todd McFarlane going to be jumping all over the place. He sent a new submission to them every week at Marvel Comics, and finally, one day, one of their artists just flaked out. They were like missing an artist or something, and they were like, "Hey, dude, do you want this gig?" It was like a backup or something like that. And he was like, "Yeah." And as soon as they let that guy in the door, and then Todd McFarlane just never let go, and he just was a machine. It's a classic story of the breaking into comics in the 80s, and that was comic books, not comic strips. Always a weird difference. Always a weird difference, and you could either like choose one or the other. You couldn't be both. You could either draw comic book pages, comic book artists, or you could do comic strips. And it seemed like both sides didn't like each other. Like they didn't mesh well. There wasn't conventions for both back then. Like there wasn't a lot of that happening. Comic strip, the National Cartoonist Society, there weren't a lot of comic book artists in the National Cartoonist Society, which was weird. There was a lot of newspaper people. So let's see. She's got, or he has these little, pentagons and stuff. And there's always like a 5 on the Gary V thing. If you know about Gary, then you know that the 5's his number. Yeah, they're just basically pentagons, right? No. Whoops, I messed that up. Yeah, it's probably not the most, it's probably not what you expected me to be drawing tonight. Sure. But I just couldn't sleep last night. I was laying there. I woke up coughing because I'm all better now. I'm COVID free and all that stuff, but I still got a sore throat, and as you can tell. But my brain was racing, and I'm like, I'm not really. Am I submitting to this? Like, would I do this job? Like, if this job was given to me, would I take it? I'm like, yeah, I could do it. Like, I could do a strip like that over and over and over again, because there's something inside. Like, for me personally, we go to these shows like Vid Summit, and these creators, coaches are always like, hey, find that thing deep down inside that you always think about, no matter what, right? And you think for me, it's comics, right? But for me, it's even deeper than that, because they say, go deeper, go deeper. What is it really? It's not just drawing, it's drawing comics. It's not just drawing comics. What is it? What is it about comics that you like? And I think it was this process of the way a daily comic strip came together, whether it's this cartoony thing or the adventure comics or just that beat of boom, 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 boom. Next day, next day. Just always there for the audience. I just love that. Um, and getting that feedback back from the fans every day and stuff like that, it just feeds you a little bit. I like that. Always like that. Let's see if I have a liner brush in here. Go into secret set of brushes. Just hit this. I might just color this one panel for the stream tonight because I literally got like 2.5 hours sleep last night. Woke up, did a full 8-hour day of back-to-back meetings. All kinds of cool, fun stuff at my day job there. But I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to try to conserve some energy and do a live stream tonight. Kind of talk about this, think about this. I probably wouldn't do, I don't think live streams are as exciting if you're watching me do the full process. I don't know. You let me know. Like for me to sit there and do writing live, to me, I like that. So when people say like, what would you watch? I'd probably watch that. I'd probably watch some creators like get down into the deep work of, making comics. I like that. I'd waste some time doing that, So again, the joke here is, needs a better punchline, but he's explaining to genuine giraffe what a comic strip is because he genuinely doesn't know. Does it move like a cartoon? I'm gonna come back tomorrow night, I think, and have this better fleshed out. I think that's what I'm gonna do. The joke will be better tomorrow. No, it's just funny little panels posted every day. Will people even read that? Well, sure. I mean, you're reading all the time on your, and then he's like, hold up, I got to check the score of my game. That's good. What I would do here normally, and I'd do all 4 panels. I'm not going to do all 4 panels tonight because I think that'd be kind of boring to watch right now. Not sure how long my throat will last tonight as well, but, and again, in retrospect, I should have just stayed up last night. It's 2:00. I'm in bed, or I'm on the couch actually because I didn't want to wake Alicia up. And I'm like, man, I know I could do that. I should do that. I should just do it. I'm just laying there thinking about it for hours. Come on. Let's go. So what I do here is I just usually block out the backgrounds. And then once your brain starts going, then I'm thinking about everything that those, when the YouTube creators I know are like, DJ, you got to talk about the things that what are you most passionate about deep down? And I'm like, well, the stuff that I'm most passionate about, no one cares about. No one cares about comic strips. Hey, chicken butt. I just like saying that. Chicken butt. Jess has a shocked face. I'm glad we've shocked you. Is that Miller genuine giraffe? Giraffe. Barry, see? Yeah. Nice. See, it would be fun to like write a strip live too, I think. I don't know. Never done this before. So wouldn't it be fun to like write a comic strip live together? I think so. I don't know. So this is what I usually do whenever I'm blocking out characters in like a comic strip type of format, right? I'll just do some flats, a flat color in here just for their character body shape. It's not the most exciting thing to watch, but this is how I can get strips done in like 3 hours, 4 hours, something like that. Fully colored and all that jazz. Backgrounds. Just do that. Yeah, right. Barry, like a virtual writer's room. Now, it could be complicated if you had fans, but we're a bunch of artists here, so we. I can't imagine like the writers of like Spider-Man doing that live and like listen to the fans attack them as they made decisions. Or you could just like ignore the comments altogether. Probably the best bet. But it's kind of nice. Like I think that that's kind of what that's what I'm going for in my life now. Is I'm just doing things that I want to do that I think would have been cool. That if I wish I had that. So the artist that I came up with, I wish that there would have been a live stream where I could have watched, you know, Todd McFarlane draw or Milton Caniff. Oh my gosh, could you imagine that? Watching like those old school cartoonists from Daily Strips draw their strips and talk like me. Like, geez, did they do that? No, maybe they did. Not live streaming, but I just wonder what they were thinking when they were doing that. All right. Right. Yeah, who knows if I'd ever hear back from the VeeFriends people, but it might be fun to just kind of see what they're getting at. Why do they want a Sunday strip? I'm curious. Why do they want a comic strip? They've got animation and they've got all this stuff going on. What value do they see in a daily comic or a comic strip? Yeah, I'd push them to do daily because why? If you're gonna just do a weekly strip, I don't think it's worth it. So that's what I tell artists too. I'm like, if you're gonna do the daily format, you might as well just go all in with it. You know, why go half-ass with it? Let's go all in. Let's do 6 days a week and 5 days a week and a Sunday. I think that's probably the good. I don't have the color palette here. I'm just gonna guess it. Let's see. Kind of eyeing it up. Let's do that. All right, that's about right. And then what they do with the VeeFriends is they usually just have, let's call it cell shading. This is a lot harder to do with this voice than I thought it would be. My heart is willing to do this all night, but I think my voice is going to be like, nope, you go to bed. Right. Oh, I'd usually isolate the layers too so I don't draw outside the lines. Just for fun. Not that I'm seriously doing this. Like, nobody's paying me to draw this right now or anything like that. I'm just kind of having some fun and talking through. Again, this is what I would do if I was trying to get the attention of a publisher or something like that. I don't have the main color guide too. Just kind of eyeing it up. The nose is a little bit different than the face. I'm sure if you were the real artist on this project, you'd have a color palette and you'd know all the brand colors and stuff like that. I'm not too worried about it right now. I'm gonna be forgiving with my nice stuff. A little richer. Like that. Yeah, that's good. It's a nice brown. Yeah. I'm counting like 3 different shades of yellow in this, or brown in this little character thing I got. Then we use this brown from the ears inside the eye, it looks like. Do that. Just hit that. Whoop. And depending on how much shading you do, there's also like a little, it's such a little thing. But it's there. Little shading in the eye. And oh, come on. Let's go. Right. And there's no lines on these pentagons. Octagon? What is it? Jeez. Not a pentagon. 6-sided. What is a 6-sided thing, guys? Centagon? Also wouldn't have the line art probably on the shapes. I'd just fill that in and just color it over. Not really clear if this would be a black and white strip, daily, or that's usually the way that the dailies are usually black and white and the weekends are usually in color. But those rules don't really matter because that was set for like newspapers. So we're not really newspaper publishers. So the panda is really easy to do. Let's see. I want to look at something real quick. So yeah, and I have another, like I said, I have another channel or another video on this channel called The Future of Comics. And the idea was that you could, no matter what kind of comic you're doing, whether it's this kind of comic or your own kind of adventure comic, you could be live streaming it as you were drawing it. Even if you weren't talking to the audience, you just put a little thing on that said like, hey, I'll check in occasionally for some questions or something like that. Just let them watch the process. And you'd be surprised at how many people do that. And they kind of feel like, wow, I'm watching this come together. It might not feel special to you, but to the fan or to the future fan or whatever, they're kind of watching something come alive. And they're there for that moment, even if it's, inconsequential to you, it feels special to them. And we've never had that opportunity as cartoonists before in the past. So the idea of like, why wouldn't you take full advantage of all the tools that we have? So there we go. Little panda there. Might take a break and try to just draw a couple more VeeFriends. My plan, I think, is to just get comfortable drawing these characters and then, might just start posting some strips over to Twitter and, see if they go like, all right, let's give you a shot at this. I know a thing or two about churning out daily strips. Did it at Kevin Smith's site, Weekly Comics there, and Did some stuff for Lanikai Ukulele Company a while back. Bigfoot and Tiki Show. My own web comics. It just never leaves you. Once you've done it, that format, it just really stays in your brain. It's like a sickness. You miss it. That's how sick it is, Barry. So you got to keep that. Got to stay sharp. Now, one of the things I would do with some of the other daily strips I would work on is I would just do that background like that. But then you might just come in here and grab a nice blue. I'll switch to my gouache brush, pump that all the way up. Whoops. Come on. Isolate that layer. There we go. Let's hit that. Right. And then go in, change it to a little bit of white, move the layer down. So you can get some nice brush effects. I love this gouache brush just because I could, you can really fake your way through some just colored backgrounds if you want. It's a nice, but people, the reader sees it for just a minute and they don't really care about the backgrounds much. And I might just darken this up here. But also, I like to do backgrounds that look like digitally painted too, occasionally. All right, let's get back on this giraffe. Right. Man, this coughing's rough. Looking forward to being 100% better very soon. Forgot some key elements on this giraffe here. Yeah. So that's the joke. We have a couple jokes that I came up with. Even just sitting here, it was like, this is genuine giraffe, so he's genuinely curious about why anybody would read a comic strip. And patient pandas being very patient with him, as he describes what you would do. Who would read a comic strip these days? Where would it live? What's the ideal way to publish a comic these days? Someone asked me that a couple weeks ago. Where's the best place to publish your comics? And I was saying Instagram, but now Instagram's changed a bunch of stuff. I don't really care for that. A lot of artist friends I know are getting kind of shadow banned or just banned. They're just getting messages saying they're done for, which sucks. All right, so that's a little kickstart of this strip. First panel there. Let's go back to our sketching. Might just want to sketch out a couple more of these before I run out of gas tonight. Check my notes real quick. Talked about webcomics, talked about how webcomic creators were kind of ahead of the curve. We were doing micropayments and membership forums way before, any of these awesome tools for creators now. We've got it so good right now. Talked about VCon. Did that. VCon was pretty awesome. There's two different shows that are the best shows I've ever been to. VCon and VidSummit. I get more out of VidSummit because of my video friends and learning about YouTube and just all kinds of cool stuff for storytelling and video. And VCon was just I was just there chilling out, just enjoying it and listening, kind of keeping an open mind for There were some like digital NFT artists there and stuff like that. And I had to like, I'm always keeping an open mind because a lot of voices were like, NFT's bad. Oh, it's a scam and all this stuff. But I was like, I don't know. Like digital collectibles, it's going to be a thing. It is a thing. It is a thing. Like you just don't know it's a thing. It just is. It might have had a boom and a bust and all that stuff, but it's still going to be a thing. The whole thing is you got to build your audience, right? For whatever the thing that you're doing is. So in this case, Gary Vaynerchuk, he's got his own, characters. And again, they're very nice. Like the cartooning is super cool. They've got these toys out. They've got like a whole line of stuff, right? And the question that was like brought up was sort of like, why do they need, why are they putting out that they're hiring a writer or an artist for these characters when they've got these beautiful cartoons already? And the truth is, I think for me, it's like, or, I think behind the scenes, it's like, it takes a very special kind of mind to want to do this all the time, right? So there's the tweet from last night, just in case you're catching up. Um, Here's Gary in his office with all of his toys and stuff. Um, and he's really building something that's interesting. A new set of characters no one's really heard of yet, unless you're in that community, and they got a good messaging behind them. And he's kind of just building out his jam, and I like the vibe of it. It's good for kids, but it's also good for adults. So it's not an all ages thing, I wouldn't say, because there's some characters that are like, I think there's like like F Monday Mole or something like that. Like it's funny and it like makes you kind of go, oh, like okay, cool. Like I like it. So which character am I going to draw next? Astronaut's pretty easy, but let's do Jolly Jack and let's do the vamp. Let's do the Halloween vibe characters. Because I had another idea for like a little strip would be that the characters are showing up and they're like, oh, it's me, Panda, but he's dressed up like another VeeFriend. And then we talked about how everybody takes off their suits at the end and Jolly Jack is just himself. I thought that, it's very like womp womp womp, but it's just a very like cute, cute thing. You have to overthink it. It could be fun. For me, I think like the interesting thing to me is I'm very motivational and I talk in that way through this channel and through our Draw or Die brand. And so I get the motivational aspect of everything that Gary does a lot. And it's very aligned, I think, with, oh, wait, I'm not sharing my drawing screen here. Good. All right. Here we go. Draw a vibin vampire. Let's draw that. First time I've drawn this. Kind of an oval head. And so I thought, like, well, okay, so what's my vision for if I had a vision for like what a VeeFriends comic strip would look like? I think what they might be going for, what I would want, from what I know of the vibe of VeeFriends and all that, you'd want a comic strip that people would want, like the old school comic strips that you'd want to like cut out and put on your fridge or in your office or something like that, with some kind of funny tongue-in-cheek message, but also something that was a little inspirational. Like the hang in there cat or something like that everybody would pin up. A lot of Far Side cartoons were like that, right? Like people would, does anyone know what the hell I'm talking? Nobody knows these comics anymore, right? Barry and a few others, probably us old dudes, but we're missing that in this today's culture. People don't go cut out a newspaper comic and like paste it up. But it feels like there's an opportunity somehow online for the characters like this or like a new IP, intellectual property, to fill that gap, to bring that like nostalgia back of that vibe of, oh man, that made me, that little weird comic made me think, right? Like the idea that I had earlier about there's version ones and version twos and like all the collectible aspect of this, but like if a version one met a version two and they were like, you don't look like me or you're not that person, and they're like, well, you're always developing over time, right? You're changing. And I just really like that one. I'll probably throw that into something. I think my vibe in Vampire is a little fatter, but we're gonna, he's had a couple too much trick or treat candy. Yeah, comics are addicting. Agreed, Barry. The Far Side, Kathy, Ziggy. I mean, yeah, one of my favorite things was going to the daily comic strips. I could draw Garfield, with my eyes closed when I was a kid. I could probably still do it right now. Don't challenge me to do it. I don't know. I'm gonna say that this vibe in Vampire was probably like a special drop, right, for Halloween. There's a zombie too, uh, zealous zombie, I think. So they all have like, if you go to VeeFriends.com, there's a character list. It's like over 300 characters. So that's another thing is like, if you're doing a comic strip, well, how do you know? How do you know which ones to choose? But that's good and bad, because like it's good because you can like have your main characters, and then you could have um, the fill-in characters like kind of pop in, because people collect these too. They own like the digital collectibles or the toys, and everybody has like their favorites in this community. So for their character to pop up occasionally, like a wombat or something like that, they'll be like, "Oh, it's my guy," you know. It's silly, but it's silly, but it's fun, and it's a good vibe. Does he got those like he got those like chibi those like chibi kind of hands? Look like kind of like sad hot dogs or something, or worms. Yeah, the Far Side is a good one. It's been a long time since I've seen a cartoon strip pinned up anywhere in my life. I don't even know if people still do, but also like I challenge you to go try to, because I'm usually drawing stuff that looks like like this month, I'm drawing some wicked Promptober stuff, some more serious stuff. Like drawing these simplified characters is almost a challenge to to kind of keep it simple and simplify and get small. Like how can you get that character across over and over again in such a small amount of lines? That's a fun challenge. Oh, Vibe and Vampire kind of looks like that one SNL actor, comedian. What was his name? Damn it. I am old, guys. Like, not as old as Barry. Barry's got me beat, but Barry knows what I'm talking about. He really does look like that one actor, though. Yeah, but I can instantly like, oh, cool. You got a Vibe and Vampire. You've got a zombie. You got a skilled skeleton. You got Jolly Jack here. You got a little crew of characters that could go on like a little Halloween adventure, or you know, um, have a Halloween party. All the VeeFriends are dressing up as each other, and Nobody wants to hang out with Vibe and Vampire because I'm gonna change his eyes because that's why he's looking like that. That character. Let's fix that. He definitely has like more circular eyes, so we could just whoop. Probably makes a lot of difference if it's again, that's kind of a challenge to go like, all right, what if this character here, right? This Vibe and Vampire was in black and white. How would you get across those eyes? Those like sunken eyes. So you gotta like add a little bit of an effect. Hagar the Horrible was my jam. Yeah. I mean, these comic strips are still around, right? Like they're still out there. I haven't looked at a daily comic strip or a daily paper in a long time. And the comics got smaller and smaller and smaller. So again, it's like depressing almost to think about. The comics used to be the things that sold the newspaper. It used to be the big thing. Like papers used to compete over comic artists, you know? All right, there's Vibe and Vampire. Let's do Jolly Jack now. All right. That should be pretty fun. Um, they used to compete over who would get the cartoonist. And then photographs came along, and little by little, the the comics got smaller and smaller, and that's just the way it went. Movies, TV, all this stuff kind of replaces comics, but comics is still there. It's like still a viable thing because ultimately it's cheaper if you really think about it. It's a lot cheaper to have one guy or maybe a little small team of people creating this IP for you, like drawing this stuff over and over again. Then animation takes a long time. Even the AI animation and like the new stuff, it still takes a long time to make something move around for a couple minutes. Incredible amount of time. But the power of comics, like it just feels like you can do a full like budget movie in a comic and action scenes and explosions and all that stuff. No special effects budget. And people will look at a comic and they'll be like, so for example, I'm going to go back while I'm talking about this. Now I'm just like drifting around, guys. Sorry. People look back at this comic strip. Where's the airplane one? Here we go. I drew this as another for Secret Forces. There was a side story about how they were collecting these giant skeletons, right? So I was just digging that. But these things only get shown very small and very like vaguely drawn because they're so small and tiny. Or in this panel, there's a Nazi or a German UFO that's flying by, right? And I drew that like one time. Like there's one panel. I've never drawn a UFO in that comic strip before. Or there's a giant ice skull there, right? So there's like a narrative going on about the Hollow Earth and all that stuff. Oddly enough, Barry has a lot of Hollow Earth stuff in his comic too. And Admiral Byrd was like the one that discovered the Hollow Earth and all that stuff. Anyways, the reason I bring this up is like people saw this once and they think in their mind that there was more to it than that one panel because they filled in the blanks in their own imagination. And that's the power of comics. You didn't have to have it spoon-fed to you in an animation or anything like that. They saw this panel once and they're like I had a couple fans that were like, "Man, that was awesome. You had a dogfight between the UFOs and the," and I'm like, "That was just one panel of a four-panel thing." Same thing with this guy with, like, this tractor beam bringing in the airplane. It's one panel. I didn't draw multiple panels of this. It was just one scene, right? And there's our friend, the UAPs. I drew this a couple years back, actually. It's kind of frightening. Or Atlantis being destroyed, right? You can get away with, like, just so much in, like, a comic. As far as, like, you've put it out there, you've put it in the reader's mind, and now they are, excited to fill in the blanks, and they remember it however they remember it. And that's the not John Lovitz, no, Barry. Another guy. There's another actor that dressed up like Dracula. Almost positive. I can see him in my head. Maybe it was from the Canadian. What was that one called? You can't really go wrong with Jolly Jack. Actually, it's like pretty fun to. What the hell he's wearing though? He's like a tennis outfit. He's got like little shorts. All right, let's do it. SCTV. That wasn't John Lovitz though. It was the other actor. I just can't. Sean Atkins. Hey, Sean. John Faraday. Yeah. I mean, that looks like whoops. All right, Jolly Jack. Really sorry about the cough, guys. Jeez. Yeah, 2 o'clock last night. I was in the middle of the night. I'm like, man, I'm wide awake thinking about comic strips. What the hell? Thanks, Gary V. Of all the people, I never thought I'd ever, be thinking that. Because you'd think like these people they can make anything they want, animations, video games, and they're probably making all that stuff. And to be said, like, I want a weekly comic strip, Sunday style comic strip. That's cool. And how many people out there can actually do it? That's the thing. Not a whole lot. There's some great artists, but like, do they have what it takes to do the comic strip format? It's just weird. It's special. Again, I don't know what's going on with his. You'd think he has fingers. I'm just going to put some fingers on him. If it was my strip, I'd have little fingers on these guys. I wouldn't just do this action unless it was like a ragdoll or something like that. Well, there you go. Barry says he has a degree in animation and he does comics now. I never had the patience for animation. I just couldn't do it. Hey, Linda, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. I should rest my eyes too. Rest my voice. It's only 9:19. I could keep doing this. Almost at this for 2 hours. If I was working on actual strips, I'd just sit here and just draw all night, But that's kind of like let's get back to that real quick. Like if I was just going to give like a overarching vision for like if somebody like Gary or if VeeFriends launches a comic strip, I would say, why not draw it live or the majority of it live? Build up your fans, like let them come watch whatever. You're documenting your process. It holds the artist to account, right? So the creator has to show up. And once you start doing this, you don't have to talk like I'm talking. Once you're in it and you got some music playing or something like that, you could also get a lot banged out. You could do so much more work because you're not distracted with the internet or whatever. It's just you and the board. You got some people watching. You're kind of a captive audience. There's Jolly Jack. All right, let's just keep drawing these characters real quick. I'm gonna do Love Trooper's pretty easy. Let's try the elephant. Let's try Empathy Elephant. Let's do that. Also, again, first time I've ever drawn these characters, so if they look like the guy from SCTV, so be it. Just how it goes. Let's draw the oops. Ah, come on. Let's go. I forgot what I was saying. Oh. Yeah, why wouldn't you draw it live? Build up your fan base and think about it. The more you do it, there's obviously opportunities for printed books. Why won't this delete? Come on. Come on, you darn thing. Cut. There we go. Good. All right, we're going to fill these blocks in with each character. I got that in me. I could draw some character design. Got to get used to drawing this style. Good night, tweeter. Thanks for watching. Jim? People must have just gotten the email like right now, like after dinner or something. And they're like checking in. Little surprise stream here. Surprise coughing too, you know. Again, I was up coughing last night. I'm feeling way better. Like I have so much energy and I just want to draw a million things. But last night I'm up, saw the message out on Gary Vee. It was 2 a.m. Well, this elephant's going to be a little tricky to draw. He's a little fatter, a little plumper. Anyways, Gary's message said he was hiring a comic strip artist, and that got me thinking about comic strips. And I was like, God darn it. You know, that's like my not so secret if you know me, passion. It's the thing that I know the most about in a world that doesn't really give a crap about comic strips anymore. I know a good bit about cartooning and comic strips, and you know, I've done it. My brain has been melded into being able to do it, to churn that stuff out, to see almost your day-to-day life as a cartoon, which I have to hold back on. You know, you can't joke about things that, you know, I used to have like no filter. And then I realized, well, you know, a filter might be hurting people's feelings, or had to mature a little bit. With great power comes great responsibility with comics. You know. So yeah, I was up thinking about that last night, barely got any sleep, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna at least mess around a little bit, put up a live stream, learn to draw these characters, kind of show other artists out there too that are watching this channel. Because another thing is, like, we don't want to, with your YouTube channel, if you're growing a YouTube channel, it's a whole other animal. But at least my friends, or my viewers, subscribers, I don't know what we call it, people, are mostly artists on here. So if I blasted this out and put like VeeFriends in the channel description, I might get some fans of VeeFriends, but they're not really fans of drawing comics, if that makes sense. So it can kind of hurt your channel if you do that. It's very interesting. Most artists don't think about that. So I've learned that over the years, and you try to keep these little communities pretty tight and talking about. So my channel is talking about the craft of comics, behind the scenes stuff. If some, you know, VeeFriends people come in here and find this, that's cool too, because I don't think it would like totally mess up the channel, but chances are they might be interested in, you know, the characters being drawn or something like that. Who knows? But not the best audience to bring into a channel about what we talk about in the Draw or Die Club. So it can throw it off. It can throw off your audience a bit. Funny thing is, they always have like number 5s on their feet. Let's see if I got that. And he's got the same thing going on. He's got these like elephant sort of feet. Yeah, cartooning is fun, you know? It's fun. It's a challenge. If you had told me at the beginning of the week I'd be here drawing this empathy elephant, I'd be like, nah, I'm going to draw some like Halloween stuff. I'm actually pretty, I'm behind on my Promptober prompts, but I'll catch up on those. But you got to kind of go with like my intuition was telling me, like, just do this. Because even if like nobody from Vayner gets back to me or VeeFriends, it's still a lesson to show other artists because I get those messages all the time. Just the other day. Like, how would I start trying to get work? And I'm showing you right now. Like, use the tools that you have. You have social media for good or bad. You have live streaming on all these different platforms. I'm choosing YouTube, but there's Twitch, there's all this stuff. Learn how to do it and don't care if there's only 14 people watching or 2 or 1. Just do it for yourself. You don't have to talk to people like I'm talking to people, but this is the way the world operates now. And I would have watched my favorite artists or artists that I looked up to, maybe not my favorite artist, but like I want to know what that guy's thinking. Like maybe I can learn something from him. I would have watched this type of stuff. I still watch this type of stuff. I'll catch some live streams of people I don't even know because YouTube served it to me. And I'll check in and watch and just like listen in to see if they have any banter or, stuff. Yeah. There's our eager elephant, or eager elephant, no. Empathy elephant. Empathy elephant. How would you ever remember over 234, 250 or something now, maybe, characters? So willful wizard, patient panda, vibin vampire from SCTV, Jolly Jack. Who else we got? I drew the giraffe over there. Proud peacock. Let's do that right here. It's a weird, different shape going on with that. Also, very interesting. If you look at these, like I'm just going to show you real quick. Switch my screen so I'm drawing the reference sheet that I have that's it. That's all I got. I think there's probably some other art of the peacock running around doing some stuff. No, I didn't really get anything else. There's some other artwork online. I just didn't grab it. So I'm just kind of going off of this toy. But I like the design of the character. It's interesting. It just reminds me of something like, he's obviously trying to go for. Read the comments here. Yeah, there you go. Jim said it. For longer than I care to admit, I thought that because I love comic books, I should be drawing comic books. But it was really strips that was my first love. Yeah, same, But I'd say, like, I whoever designed these characters, I don't know who designed I mean, I know that Gary drew the original sketches, but these cartoon versions that were at VCon, they're very they're designed very well. Like, whatever artist did all the figuring on the character design, they look very unique. They don't look like they're trying to be Pokemon, right? Even though that's the vibe of, like, you wanna have your own little card game and Pokemon, like, type characters that people remember, but they're unique looking, and that's something that, like, I think was every creator, you're trying to make your character look memorable in some way. So, like, even this practical peacock here, um, got these, like, little swoops that come in the neck, and then the neck kind of just becomes I'm just gonna do that. Stan X. Stan X. Stan X. Stan. I kind of turned my back on strips and single panel comics early in my career, but now that's all I seem to want to do. So, isn't that weird? Because I feel like I know exactly what you're talking about. Maybe you can, like, type out a little bit more about what you're saying there while I'm talking. Why was it? Why did you turn your back on comic strips? What was it about comic strips that made you turn your back on the format? I'm wondering. For me, I think, and again, I did 1999. I had Gravity in newspapers for about a year, a little over a year, and we had deadlines, all that stuff, and it just wasn't making money, like. So for me, I was, like, really driven on the money part. I'm like, man, I love to do this, but there's no money here, right? Like, this is not the career, the dream job that I thought it was. And I still love the format, but I didn't, I wasn't seeing, even in being in 50 newspapers or something like that, it just wasn't much. And then the artists that I would talk to, they would tell me horror stories about, um, like, they weren't making any money or they were owed money. And I'm like, geez, what the heck is going on? So, I just naturally kind of fell into my own web comics and, like, my own comic books. And then I had other job offers that came along, um, that kind of took me out of, not out of comics, but not out of comics completely, but just like children's books. I'd make more on a children's book than I would ever make on a comic, which was something. I hate that. I hate it. Let's just get the shape of the practical. I like this practical peacock. It's very practical. Um, it just felt like, just wow, this grind. You love it, but to see that, like, you're not really, nobody's really making it. You know, even the big person people that you thought were doing really well, they've got these day jobs and they're grinding away on this stuff. It's kind of like, what in the world? So, okay, so Stan says, I wanted to do comic books. And that's what I respected more. And that's who I wanted to be. But the things that I did easiest and most naturally were single panel strips. I talked about this a little earlier in the stream, how there used to be this, maybe there still is, this dichotomy between comic strip artists and comic book artists. And they all didn't seem to respect either side. And so I used to say I could only do one or the other. I couldn't do both. I don't know if it was my wife or someone else before my wife told me, like, why are you saying that? why are you saying you can't do both? And I'm like, well, I can't, because it's a different way of thinking. So you guys probably know exactly what I'm talking about. If you've done both, there's a different way of thinking when you're doing a strip or a gag comic or a thoughtful comic compared to like an adventure comic strip, right? And I couldn't switch gears. Now I can. But for the longest time, I was stuck. Probably all throughout my 20s, early 30s, I would be like, well, I got this comic strip to do. I guess I can't work on my graphic novel or, or my other longer form comics. I think it's just you put it in your own head. That's what I was doing for sure. And again, I'm not going to draw all the details of these. That's pretty crazy. I wouldn't want to draw a practical peacock in a daily comic strip. Let me tell you. You have to find a way to. It's cute. It's a good design, but all these crazy circles. It's not very practical for a daily comic strip. He can have a guest appearance. How about that? Yeah. But yeah, to live in a world where it's like you finally grow up and you can do this thing that you always imagined, and then the world doesn't want it anymore. Or they want it, but they want it for free, you know. See you, Charlie. Thank you. Steph, thanks for watching. Yeah, I gotta get up at 5 a.m. too. Silly. Thanks for popping in and hanging out. Sean, you'd be great at comic strips. Maybe the jokes are hard, but once you get in that mindset of the beats of stuff, maybe the joke, if it's funny comics, it can be hard, like a gag a day sort of thing. You could be reaching, or having to be mindful every day. That's kind of tough. If it's an adventure comic, sky's the limit, man. You rock that. Rock that out. Dustin. Back in the golden age of comics, most of the comic book illustrators longed to be syndicated strip artists, and there was a prestige associated with that. That is true. So we'll talk about that. So this is like maybe you already know this. Maybe some people don't. It seems like Jim does. But someone like Jack Kirby, right? When they would ask him like what was his biggest success, it wasn't working at Timely or doing Captain America. He co-created Captain America. He got that Sky Masters of the Space Force strip, and he was like, "This is it. I've made it." He bought himself a fancy suit, walked around like a dapper guy in New York. That was the pinnacle, getting a daily comic strip, daily adventure strip. And then it fell apart for that guy. It fell apart because the comics suck, Yeah, cartoonists used to wear suits to offices. Crazy, right? Yeah, Sky Masters of the Space Force. Yeah. Also, public domain, pretty much. You could make your own Sky Masters strip if you wanted to. I thought about it. Dustin Pike said, I've wanted to try both, but I think graphic novel may be easier, more freedom with more space. Well, I would say to that, the mistake that people make is they start to make this graphic novel and they don't finish it because I've done this, but you start to get this big project and then you're like, oh my God, like I'm either stuck or I don't want to finish. Now I don't like it. But with that 4-panel comic strip, there's something about it that makes you want to keep it going. I know it's harder for readers to jump into, but I gotta finish this practical peacock and go to bed. I'm gonna draw one more, I think. I got every single Sky Masters collection. Stan says I got the Sky Masters collection a year ago. Not sure which one you got. I got the blue one from like Pinnacle Press, and I got that nice gray one, that hardcover version. Those are really good editions of that comic. So cool. Such a cool comic. And Wally Wood on inks couldn't go wrong, you know? My goodness. My goodness. Yeah, Alicia said they made bank too. They sure did. I don't think the rates have changed for comic strip artists since the 1950s or whatever, so that's crazy. Let's do, all right, I'm looking through here. Oh, you know, I didn't do Gratitude Gorilla. Let's do him. That's tough because I think he has longer arms. I can't find him standing up. Let me see real quick. Gratitude Gorilla, where are you? He's kind of hidden back there. All right. I'll try him. Try him right here. Again, first time I've ever drawn these characters, so, you know, maybe we're capturing that. Maybe no one cares. But it's fun. Either way, it's kind of fun. Like, so Gratitude Gorilla has like kind of a peanut shaped head. He's got this kind of, nope, this kind of thing going on. Yeah. Jim mentioned the Stripped documentary about the death of the newspaper industry. I've seen that. I forget where I saw that, but again, very depressing though, right? You watch it and you're like, damn it. If I was only born in 1943, I'd have been someone's bullpen working on strips and stuff, man. That was where I wanted to be. I'm not going to be able to draw this character. I can feel it. Let's see. He's got big. Oh, I got it. All right. We'll get there. So many characters to. They must have like. I'm really impressed because it's nuts the amount of characters they have, and they're building IP for all of them. You know, maybe not all of them right at once, but they're building like cartoons. We've seen some of the little animations for it, and they got card games. And if you haven't heard of it yet, you're gonna hear about it. You're gonna be like, I saw DJ drawing these wacky characters. So, yep. And then it's kind of got a sideways smile. Looks like John Goodman. Nope, I don't like that. He's a trickier one to draw. It's because of his peanut face. He's got kind of like a sideways mouth. All right, there you go. Yeah, Maddie Comics said the thing. If you level up while you're making a bigger book, you'll hate the part before you grew. Yep, that definitely happens. And okay, let's see here. Did I say something else? Did I say not VeeFriends? I thought I said VeeFriends. Might just be tired. I'm working on, I swear, 2.5 hours of sleep. So, you know, I'm going to be dreaming about these weird characters and be like, oh my God, the courageous cobras. uh, right. And he's kind of blue, so that works out. It's kind of weird little body, this guy. He's got like a, I don't even, he's usually just sitting down. So I'm just going to try to like imagine him standing up with his big fists and like gorilla feet, hands for feet. I think he's got like a little. He's got some abs. Gratitude Gorilla is thankful for his personal trainer. I drew a lot of monkeys in the past. Drew the Monkey Man Unleashed for years. What, years? Maybe a year. Drew that webcomic, and then I wrote some while I was down and out. I wrote some new videos for the channel that kind of are kind of like telling the background of stories of jobs that I did, which I was like, how could that be interesting? Because a lot of my YouTube friends were like, you need to tell your stories, DJ. Like, you have a lot of good stories. I'm like, no one wants to hear those stories. You care about what you want in your life. He's a little skinnier than real Gratitude Gorilla, but take it. We'll take it. Darn it, what's going on here? There we go. Gosh, I forgot what I was saying. It's one of those nights. Okay. I just feel like I'm just going to draw I'm going to stay on this stream. I'm going to draw every single VeeFriend that exists. I'm going to go on their website. I'm just going to draw every single VeeFriend. That's what I'm going to do. Let's do it. Oh, yes, telling stories. So yeah, my YouTube friends tell me, and I'm gonna tell this story as I'm drawing Common Sense Cow for you all. They tell me, hey, I'll say something in passing, right? And it's fascinating to them. They're like, wow, you worked for Kevin Smith, DJ. You got to tell that story. I'm like, nobody cares. Like, I didn't work for Kevin Smith. I did comics on moviepoopshoot.com, right? But there's a story about how, I'm not going to spoil it because I wrote a video about this, but I was given like 24 hours to basically make a logo for Kevin Smith's moviepoopshoot.com. And within 72 hours, it was on the Jay Leno show on his chest, right? And there was how do I tell that story? Why is it interesting to other artists? Like, how do I, I'm not bragging or anything like that, believe me. But what can other artists learn about how did I get that job? How did I position myself to get that? Was it about speed? It was about what I'm doing now. Like, I saw an opportunity, or I just put myself in the places where this cow does not look. This looks like Psycho Cow or something. Jeez, look, guys, I'm trying to draw this. That's the cow I'm drawing, but it's looking like it's looking like spaced out cow. This is not Common Sense Cow. This is like, we're gonna fix it. I'll fix it. Don't worry about it. So, anyways, yeah, I've got a lot of stories like that. I got stories about. We were in Boston, and my friend Daniel Batal, my brother from another mother, he said, I just said it in passing. I'm like, hey, my first week at Spreadshirt when I worked there, I broke Spreadshirt because I did a drawing for this YouTuber named PewDiePie. And I had no idea who PewDiePie was. And we broke the system. And he stopped me in our tracks. We're having dinner, and he's like, DJ, that's a YouTube video. And I'm like, what? I'm not putting that on my channel. I'm just getting rid of these crazy psycho cow eyes here. I can get rid of that. But then he's like, no. Like, that's cool. Like, you could tell that story in a way that wraps around, like, how were you able to get that job where you were in that position? These eyes aren't much better, guys. Let's just do it anyways. We're gonna fix it. Psycho cow. Not great. Not a great cow, DJ. All right. Let's do it. Um, and now I get it. It kind of clicked for me at this last vid summit. I was like, oh, okay. So I've written some of those stories. I'm just calling it like drawing stories, right? Sounds like a bragger to me. Yeah. Same thing with like the opportunity, like working with the Flowbots band. People go, wow, you know, that's cool. How did you get that job? How did you do that? And it's a lot of, you know, haven't written the Flowbots video thing yet, but with Flowbots, I like heard the album. I liked it. I heard a song on the radio and I was like, I like this. And it just seemed like I was listening to it like I listen to everything with like a storyteller's heart. And I'm like, I can see this. Like, this is a story. This sounds like a comic book, these lyrics. And I reached out to them. I just emailed them or messaged them on MySpace or something. I don't know. And I was like, hey, I really like this album. I draw comics. I was drawing Hero by Night at the time or something like that. Maybe after I did Hero by Night. And I'm like, I would love to draw a comic based on these lyrics. Do you guys ever think of that? And they got back to me and they're like, we've read your comic. And I'm like, what? Get out of here. And that was it. I struck it up with the Flowbots just by like reaching out to them and saying like, hey, I really love this lyrics. I'd love to draw. Like, would you be down to let me draw a web comic about this? And they were like, yeah. Do you do shirt designs? I'm like, yeah, yes. Can you do poster designs? I'm like, I guess. Do you do websites? I'm like, well, I can design websites as well. And so suddenly I just became like their guy, for a while. So, I'm still good friends with them. I occasionally do some stuff for them, but more so for me, just making lifelong friends, whether they're, still making music. I think they're still making some music and they're still out there doing some stuff. But I was there for their one hit wonder years. And that was fun. But it was just positioning yourself as an artist. Like speed, I think, is one thing, like being able to turn around something. I'm 47. I'm a little older now. I just got over COVID. Here I am, 2.5 hours of sleep, and I'm doing this stream to like learn how to draw these VeeFriends characters and draw some comic strips because I'm probably gonna go in to try to get this gig. There's probably hundreds of artists out there that are better than me, faster, maybe not faster than me, right? Are they out? Are they doing a live stream right now? No. Are they sketching and stuff out? Probably not. You know, I'm like, this will be fun. And it's not something I normally draw. And I'm also kind of just familiarizing myself with the names just because this is what you would do if you were given that opportunity. So I'm already kind of visualizing what would it look like if they said like, you're the guy, let's freaking go. We're going to launch this thing next week. I better know that this is Gratitude Gorilla and that's Common Sense Cow. And this is the Empathy Elephant. That's Vibe and Vampire, right? Practical Peacock is not very practical. Willful Wizard, right? Like, so I'm getting it. Got to stay sharp. Got to keep your ammunition loaded. And that's why to this day, like, I built that over time. So if I get artists that come to me and they're like, oh man, I need to make more money, or how do I get out of this thing? I'm like, all right, use the tools that are in front of you, man. Like, you got to get out there and draw every day. And here, I'm going to draw this will be the last one for the night, I think. This is probably an easy one for me to do too. One of my favorite ones too is the astronaut character. Saw that at VCon. I was like, that's cool. There was a guy in a suit running around, you know. But I draw a lot of astronauts. I don't know if anyone noticed. Sometimes I draw a lot of little doodles of astronauts. So I like the simplicity of this astronaut character. Oh, yes, Jim. I don't know when I mentioned Arrow Comics. Did I mention that on the stream the other day? Yes. Randy Zimmerman at Arrow Comics. Boy, I could talk a little bit more about that, but and that was I didn't understand things, as much. I don't agree with the way the comic book industry works, I never did. But I remember when he didn't he listed like the first first two issues of Zombieopolis, and then he pulled the plug. He didn't print the first copy. And so what did I do? Did the same thing I've had to do multiple times. Like I went and printed it myself and tried to get as many people I knew locally or semi-locally that bought it from us through Diamond and said like, hey, I'll just give you this comic. I think I got one of those over here. Sons of bitches. Look at that. Where is it? Got a copy of that right here. Don't I? Oh, come on, man. Oh, look at that. There it is. I don't know if this does not have Arrow Comics on it. I'm going to go full screen. Let's do it. All right, done. Zombieopolis. And this one's so old now that the cover kind of came off because it's like, I forget where we got this printed. That's through FU Comics. 99. Hello. Yeah. Still a little thing in the back of the book talking about the whole issue of what happened there with them. Yeah. Jason Embry inked this. Oh, shucks. Memories. But yeah, I remember Randy Zimmerman posted something like back in this is the 90s, right? 99. And he's like, the other side to the road of Zombieopolis. And it was this editorial like scathing, like, I'm a young punk that doesn't know anything about the comic book industry, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, but you guys promised that you would publish this. And it ain't right to put something out in the catalog and not publish it. That was my stance. I still kind of feel that way. Like, I don't think you should be a publisher unless you can back it up. So that's why I don't like Kickstarters. Been in the same situation with Kickstarters before, where been involved in some Kickstarters that didn't go, and then I, for whatever reason, no hard feelings, but like I don't like it. I don't like Kickstarters. I think that like you should just be like, okay, I got this money. This is how much it takes. I like crowdfunding, all that stuff, whatever, but you gotta want to actually put the books out. I hate that. I don't like not putting the books out, especially if people ordered them, right? Well, what's going on in the back of Astronauts? I think he has a backpack of some kind back there. See, again, a nice simple, simple character design on this guy. Even the suit, the character suit, I think it was this character. A very similar character is that they have is Heart Trooper, which is a very similar design, but his head's a little more like that. He's got more of a square visor and a heart. It's almost like a variation of, and he's got like this like gas mask looking hole. I don't know. Hey Stanex, thank you for stopping in. I'll be over here shortly because I've been at this for 2 hours and 30 minutes. Time can fly when you're having fun. Jim, I did some terrible hand lettering for some titles of Caliber. Hey, the first issue of The Crow. We sat next to Homeboy, the creator of The Crow. What's his name? It's drawn a blank. fell asleep. He was at the table next to us and he's sleeping. The creator of the crow. Yeah. Hey, Jason that artist. Saw you in the StreamYard live stream a while back. That was fun. Was that the hot we were eating hot peanuts or something like that? I got to go to the StreamYard VIP party in Vid Summit too. I'm like, well, who let me in here? But it was fun. It's fun. Fun times hanging out with all those crazy YouTubers. It's fun. I gotta turn StreamYard back on. I don't really care for this thing that we're using. Also, StreamYard should have a drawing stream on their channel. So I might, again, see, we're talking like opportunities, right? They have a lot of people on talking about how to build your YouTube channel, but do they have people on that say like, here's how to do a drawing stream with StreamYard? That can be fun to do. Yeah, Jim, Caliber Comics, amazing. Gary Reed. So I got a nice Gary Reed, not a nice Gary Reed story, but Gary gave us a shot with our Godchild book. We never finished it because Gary passed away suddenly, and it was sad. And I guess I used that as my excuse to not finish the book. In retrospect, Gary probably would have been not happy about that. But it was a bummer, man. Gary was such a good dude, and just bummed me out. It's those moments in life where like these people that you thought were like immortal legends, and they just like, that's it. He went to a Comic-Con, heart attack, and died. Unbelievable. But it just hit me. It still bothers me, but what can you do? But he did so much stuff for comics, as an art form, that I think a lot of people that knew him know that. So whether they had salty, some characters, some creators were like salty, but he was always fair, I thought, to me. Love that guy. Yeah, comic book shop that he owned. Yeah. Right. Well, Jason the artist, do you want to collab with me on a pitch to StreamYard? If you do, email me or whatever. Maybe we get on there and chop it up. Oh, you worked for Gary himself, yeah? Yeah, Gary was great, man. That's great. Cheers to Gary. The great beyond. Wherever you are. Yeah, there's things I need to fix in my, I start things and don't finish them like that. I use that as an excuse. I could say that now. Like, it was a bummer, but I still probably should have pushed through. The guy that took over Caliber was kind of not a nice guy. Kind of treated us a little bit meh. But we got the rights back to our Godchild, so we can do whatever we want with it now. So, but it's like Maddie Comics said. When you do something for a long time and you level up while you're doing it, if it's like taking you a long time, your artwork changes. So like with Godchild, the face has changed for sure. It's very cartoony in some spots, and it's very like sort of realistic in others, and like I don't know. I just skip over that, but like we talked at one point about like we got to go back and fix these faces, and I'm like no. So that kind of keeps me from doing it too. I'm like, oh shit, I got to go back and fix all the faces. I don't want to do that. Yeah, it was a good thing to do though. I think I learned a lot from doing that. So okay, well there's your astronaut, and those ones are pretty. I like those character designs. It's very simple. Well, all right, interesting. Well, this has been a really long stream, guys. So it's 2 hours 35 minutes. I think I'm gonna call it. Might come back and do some more with some more fleshed out comics that look a little more solid and professional, you know, not just sketching. Because this is the first time I've ever drawn these characters, but I think it's, you know, hitting their likeness is a key thing for me, and I think I kind of nailed it there. But cool. So thanks for watching, and check out my other videos and all that stuff. Subscribe and do that jazz. Let's hide this. And yeah, cool. Hopefully I can get some sleep tonight, and I won't be up thinking about comics and you know, reading Twitter. I got to stay off of Twitter at night. But hey, thanks for watching, guys, and hanging out. And hope you're drawing out there, right? Uh, don't be just sitting around watching me draw. Hopefully you're sketching something and working on something for yourself and staying inspired and encouraged. And if you ever need anything, don't, you know, you need to bend an ear or something, you know how to get a hold of us. It'll either be me or Allie, probably usually Allie, you know, replying to people not these days on the socials, thank goodness. Um, but yeah, I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you soon. I'm gonna end the stream. Peace, Sean.